to the Earthborne Games podcast. I'm your host, Anders Carlson. Joining me is Evan Simonette.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. Andrew Fisher's here.
Hello.
And we've also got Sean. I didn't even look at your last name. Sorry, Sean. What's your last name?
ChubFrog.
No, introduce him as
ChubFrog.
yeah.
This is
some
ChubFrog,
people call me Sean, but people in the know. ChubFrog.
Do people call you
the people
Chub?
know him as ChubFrog.
Right. Well, I was just trying to show some respect. But Sean, it sounds like, do your friends call you ChubFrog?
Of
People
course.
in the real...
What else would anyone call me besides ChubFrog?
I'm actually curious about the origin of the name ChubFrog. Where'd that come from?
There's an old Magic card called ChubToad.
Ah,
And so it's a little bit of a spin-off of that.
ChubFrog.
So, listeners may know me from answering your rules questions on the internet, or perhaps from overzealously participating in fan pressure campaigns to get Earthborne staff to cut their hair. Now, Fisher, it was not because I was jealous of your gorgeous flowing locks. That's not it at all. I just know.
We at least got it.
I just know that this is what's in, and I've had firsthand experience of peak head look, and so I just wanted to share that with you.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't join you in the full shaved head. I might once again. I did it a long time ago for a costume, but I probably will at some point again.
All right, we're looking forward to it.
I've never seen this ChubToad Magic card, and this art is kind of horrifying.
Oh, really?
It's a classic.
It's got like
classic.
spines. Yeah.
Everyone
it's a
at
very
home,
horrifying toad.
Everyone look it up so you can follow along with us here. I'm looking at... Whoa! That rules. I love that ChubToad. He's got a hand sticking out of his mouth. He or she.
Wow.
It's kind of an interesting card for Ice Age, though I think it's a little overcosted. But
most Ice Age cards were probably overcosted.
Yeah, except for the ones that very much aren't.
Except for the couple that broke the game, but
Yeah.
What is Ice Age? Is that like old Magic?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
one of the
Old
earliest
school.
sets.
I love the art from that era. It's just so, I don't know, irreverent or something.
Yeah, Magic
card
never
games.
recaptured the feel of the classic '90s cards.
Yeah.
No. Too
Well,
polished.
it's one of the things people like about sorcery, among other things. But it kind of tries to capture a little bit of that charm. Obviously, it doesn't quite have art quite as jank as early Magic. But like a lot of it's a lot more technically competent than that. So, but it captures a lot of the other charms of earlier Magic, I think.
Yeah, I heard they even hired some of the artists that did some of the early Magic pieces.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That was the era in the 90s when I was a kid, and I kind of broke paths with you guys. I bought the Magic cards, like you did, but I didn't play them. I just looked at the art. I didn't even read a single word. Look at my cool art cards. Never
I was
played
the
it
same
once.
way.
Were you?
Yeah.
But
I
then-
didn't really get into Magic until over 10 years ago at FFG. When someone let me play their like mono black deck, and I had a very positive experience with it. And then I was kind of on board for a few years, and then I realized how overwhelming it was, and I stopped.
That's
Yeah,
where we diverged.
we-
I focused on the rules text, and you guys fell in love with the art.
I wish I was more like you, though. I really do. But maybe that's just not who I am.
I don't know if I don't know if you do, Anders. Your approach sounds more relaxed. We get all sweaty about it.
Yeah, I wasn't sweating the art too much. I just thought the ChubFrogs were cool. Sean, how's it going so far? What do you do? What do you do at Earthborne? Just real quick.
Yeah, so I'm the somebody called me the ChubFrog officer, but I'm the chief financial officer.
Well, CFO, I just couldn't help. Your title literally has CF in it. It was just too perfect.
I'll accept ChubFrog officer. So yeah,
So is
I've
this...
been.
Sorry, go ahead.
I've been. I'm handling all our finances, getting everything in order. I'm working towards setting our budgets. When I first came on, there was so much to get organized, and I had more than a year's worth of transactions to sort through and figure out where everything landed and what everything was. So it was kind of a whirlwind at the beginning there, but I'm starting to get my feet under me now.
Awesome.
We do this like update meeting every Monday, where we all check in about what everybody on the team is working on. And Sean is always like incredibly apologetic when he gets to his turn. He's like, everybody can tune out for the boring financial stuff. But like, we are so grateful to have him because, like tackling, reconciling the books and like figuring out exactly how VAT works,
Still working on that one.
Yeah, well, I think everybody is. We get literally conflicting advice on VAT sometimes on like how to handle some of our like, since we do some things in Europe and some things not, and but we are grateful to have you tackling these problems. Even if your Monday meeting entry is maybe on the drier side.
Everybody just puts the call on mute while I talk for a while, and then, is he done? All right,
no,
let's come back in. Yeah, so I mean, I have experience in the area, but there's a lot of things new to me, like international commerce. I've never worked with that. I've never worked with. And, I've never worked on this side of a crowdfunding, so lots of new things to figure out. But it's interesting.
So is this
we're glad to have you. And as many listeners probably know, Sean is the our kind of like rules lawyer extraordinaire. It's actually like a pretty awesome resource to have the rules lawyer on staff. Not that it didn't stop me from bothering you before this, but now it feels more official.
Yeah, I just always found rules interesting. I just got to know how everything works, every detail of it.
It's good quality to have. Is this like a side gig for you, or is this your full-time gig now?
No, this is my full-time gig. This is what I do now.
So you love games. Yeah, you love games, obviously. And is this your first time working with games and finances and such?
Yeah, with a games company, yeah, definitely. For the last 10 years, I worked at a heating and air conditioning company.
Wow.
So
what a cool switch.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to be working with a company that does stuff I'm passionate about, obviously.
Yeah. That's so cool.
You weren't passionate about air conditioners?
No, they're not bad. They're not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I do love me some air conditioning.
Well, learned a lot about those too.
Yeah. Ready to move on though. Well, you know a lot. You know so much about the game as everyone knows. So just chime in when you want to as we continue. We're going to be also counting down. We're not counting down, but we're going to be talking about Fischer's top 5 works of writing. You said it was broad selection. So I'm excited to hear about that. But first, shall we do our little work report?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's start with you.
All right. Well, yeah. Andrew Navarro isn't here with us today because he's out at Team Covenant. He's coming back to the US for a little bit, and he's stopping by them. He was on their live stream earlier this week, so make sure to check that out. They had a wide-ranging conversation that went from they talked a bunch about Chubworld Eidalon as well as philosophy and AI, and it was a wide-ranging, good conversation. So make sure to check that out if you're curious. He played the game with them, though unfortunately not on stream. But he does show off a few more cards from our demo deck that we're working on right now. So that's where he is this week. But for my work stories, while Andrew's off showing off Eidalon, we've been testing Eidolon in-house, which has been pretty fun. As I mentioned, we're prepping these demo decks to show off the game at PAX, as well as, prepping for an eventual crowdfunding campaign. And so as a result, we're kind of trying to button up a couple last-minute rules issues and things. And so we've really prioritized putting this game through the ringer. I think I had like my calendar this week is just solid Eidolon testing, and I'm cycling different members of the team through and having them try different decks and different iterations to button up a couple small rules things. So it's been really fun to like get everybody playing the game and see how different people interact with the game and stuff. Had Sean take on Maxine yesterday. Evan, you and Rob played. Was that yesterday too?
Yep.
So we've been getting everybody through it. It's been fun.
Yeah, I lost most of my games, but I blame that on same thing I blame most things on. Fischer, in the middle of the game, he kept coming in and changing the cards. Let's change the value on that
changing
card.
Some values.
Just make sure ChubFrog loses this match.
Yeah, I got to errata your game live to make sure you don't have an edge. I think you won your last game, right?
I did. I got one win.
Yeah. Though Maxine, she like there was a moment when she was about to steal your last agent, and like I thought for sure you were done for.
Yeah, it at one point it looked like there was no way I could lose. I had complete control of the game, but out of nowhere she grabbed two agents and just a hair away from getting the third one. It was pretty intense.
Cool.
So that's been pretty fun. Probably the other big thing that we're doing right now is we are actually making all the new Rangers stuff. So we've been getting it. I think I mentioned on the last one, we've been looking over proofs from the printer, but then one of the reasons Andrew's coming back to the States is we're going to go do a press check at Delano, our printer over in Michigan, where we're printing for North America. So Andrew and I are going to go out there, kind of see the first stuff rolling off the presses, quickly, check colors and matching for our other stuff. So I'm pretty excited for that actually, because I've done sort of press checks on some books before that we printed at a printer here in Minnesota, but I never got to go out to our Chinese factories when I worked at FFG. So it'll be really cool to actually be on site, make sure, make sure cards match for folks, but also just see our production in action. So I'm sure we'll have stories about that.
Manufacturing in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super nice. It's like pretty easy just to pop over there and check it out, as opposed to we are printing our European stuff over in Germany, and thankfully Ben at Frosted Games, it's a quick jaunt for him to go check out. But for us, it'd be a bit more for us to go to Ludo.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the two big things. I've got some other stuff going on. Maxine is hard at work at some Ranger stuff that we haven't quite announced yet that's in testing. So I've been helping out a little bit with that and doing design meetings for that kind of thing. But Eidalon and testing Eidalon and printing Rangers. So I'm feeling pretty good. Excited for PAX in December.
Nice. I got to try Aidalon. Corey said he'll play with me one of these days. So,
oh yeah,
can't wait to check.
We get some fresh blood in our testing pool would be good.
Heck yeah. See if an idiot can learn the rules.
Should we make him learn it live on camera again?
Yeah.
And just completely see if we can make him totally melt down?
How do you think it compares to learning? How does it compare to learning Rangers?
I think it's easier than learning Rangers. There's still a decent amount of terminology and stuff, but it's given that it's just this kind of competitive game. Rangers has these kind of more wide-ranging RPG-like rules to simulate all sorts of stuff, and as a result, figuring out what you're doing. In the rule book we put a bunch of stuff about here's what you should even be trying to do in the game, but Eidalon's a lot more straightforward, where it's you're trying to steal agents. Here's your action list. Go. It can take a while to learn how to play it well, but learning the basics and getting going, I think, is a lot easier than Rangers.
It appears that way. Cool. Thanks, Fisher. Evan, let us know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned last time, I'm working my way through the art for the demo deck so that we can have that ready for PAX on time. I just looked at the count. I guess I'm over halfway through. I'm at about 15 pieces out of 25. And what Fishers are like 4 or 5 weeks left for me.
Yeah, 5.5.
So 5.5. Okay, great.
Yeah. You're made of time.
I should probably know like the deadline more. But yeah, so I've been keeping a good pace. It felt like it was going to slow down for me a little bit this week because Andrew's out of town, and he's usually pretty good about providing feedback when he's available. But he's been busy. Yet he's still been able to get back to me with things. So I had a little bit of anxiety going into this week about that, but things are going smoothly, so that's good. Other than that usual report, doing art, I've been working with Rob, who Andrew mentioned. He joined the team a couple weeks ago. His primary role is going to be art direction, and it's art direction of Aidalon mostly. And he and I have been we've been tasked to come up with a plan about how to divvy up work between us with art direction for Rangers and for Eidalon, and what that plan is going to look like and how we're going to roll it out. So up until this point, I've usually just kind of operated on like feels and intuition, but now I'm kind of having to really look forward and make things fit on what's going to be more of a tight deadline. So it's definitely something new for me. Not new in terms of these deadlines, but new like coming up with a plan with someone and getting all the details hammered out. But we also have Joe to help us, and we're the three of us are gonna figure it out. And Rob and I have been talking just about every day. I've been like just getting him up to speed on how things work at Earthborne, and we've been sharing notes on art direction because he has art direction background from when he worked in the plastics department at FFG. He actually worked with Corey. I don't remember if that was mentioned or not when Andrew announced his inclusion into the team. But so that's been like really interesting to hear someone else's take on art direction, because I just sort of made my own process. Like when I joined, Andrew just kind of threw me into the fray, and I just figured things out with his help. So obviously, like, my methods and process aren't really formalized like they might have been at FFG, which I don't even know, because even though I interfaced with the art department as a graphic designer there, I don't really know how they really worked. So that's been pretty cool, and it feels great to have like someone to help with the art burden, because there's going to be a lot of art, especially for Eidalon. So and yeah, like Fisher mentioned, we were playtesting yesterday, and I played the demo deck, and he played a deck that I think Corey made, and it was a lot of fun. But we were subject to some of the on the fly changes from Fisher, which made things interesting.
You're making me sound like some kind of tyrant over here.
No, you were doing what you needed to do to him.
You just want to spice things up a little bit, make the game more interesting with some changes in the middle of it.
But it was cool. Oh, go ahead.
To give a little context, we were messing with adjusting some values on the cards across the card pool, and it's way faster to just like play the game and kind of adjust them based on how we know they need to be adjusted, instead of like retuning the whole card pool just for a couple tests. So I was doing some live value adjustments, and we would like change the value and set a little die over the top of the value on the card and be like, pretend this card says this. And so yeah, sometimes it feels like Fisher is capriciously nerfing your cards on the fly.
Well, to go a little bit further, you were saying all these types of cards add a certain amount to them. And I was like,
just trying to explain the system.
No, but it all went fine, and it was cool for Rob and I to play through, because I feel like we got into a cool discussion about like theme and how to inject the theme of Eidalon that we're creating into these cards in the form of art, and so that was pretty cool. And obviously, like, we'll come at Andrew with a lot of cool theme ideas, and he'll just
shoot them down,
winnow down the list of cool ideas to what works. So
Evan, is it a relief to finally have some help, or is it even more stressful as you try to figure out a 2-person system?
Well, it is a relief for sure. Like I said, it's new for me to work with someone else in this, like, art direction capacity. So the only difficulty is me just realizing I have to articulate my own process that I just created on the fly, and I'm realizing that the process I made was developed strictly around Rangers and how unique the art treatment is for Rangers. So I keep telling Rob, and it's mainly just to remind myself too, I'm like, I have this really intricate process for how I direct art, and how I work with that art after it's wrapped up. But that doesn't mean you have to work this way for Eidalon, and you should feel that have the freedom to develop your own process and stuff like that. So, and he's got a lot of cool ideas, and he's coming in with a lot of like confidence about how he wants to proceed, which is cool. So
yeah, he didn't just work at FFG, but he also worked at Games Workshop, and so he has a lot of experience with working on large properties with a lot of like different factions and identity and systematizing stuff. So I think that perspective will be cool, especially in juxtaposition with your approach, Evan. Like, I think that like you take such a kind of like careful piece by piece, like really in depth, and like Andrew described some of your art descriptions as like poetic, right? So I think like pairing like your kind of thorough care with each art with Rob's systemic approach will be, I think those two will complement each other nicely.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to going forward. So it's going to be fun to continue chatting with him and making something cool.
Awesome. Evan, I love how you share. It's almost like you're in therapy or something. You're like talking about how it feels to share the load. And
yeah, well, it's
your hopes.
Yeah, it is. I suppose a little bit like that for me.
You can't.
So thanks for listening.
Talking to your 1,000 therapists on
Feel
Spotify.
Free to provide free therapy advice in the comments.
Yeah, and also smash that like button, you guys. Also, I was gonna say, Fischer, you should start a service where you just go and like meddle in people's games and like change values and stuff. That could be a good side gig for you.
I think that's literally the service I offer already.
Meddler for hire.
Yeah.
You sick of Catan? Get you in there. All right, Sean. Are we doing this?
We're doing this. This is what the people tune in for.
Or tune out.
They're not here to listen to creative people talking about the games they create that the people love. No,
they want hard numbers.
Whining and crying about the problems.
They tune in to hear accounting methodologies and tax law updates.
All right, get as serious as you want about it. Go ahead. This is your big debut.
This is
work story. ChubFrog's work story.
Yeah, so I'm still kind of just getting started. I'm not even 3 months in. Like I said, when I first came on, there was a whole lot I had to get my head around, a lot of new things to learn, a lot of things to familiarize myself with our books. And on top of that, we had already filed our extension for 2023 tax return, and we were then coming up on our extended deadline already. So as I was trying to figure everything out and learn a bunch of new things, I was also kind of under the gun because I had to get everything in order in time. And then, while all that was going on, I had to take the opportunity when Fischer offered to let me take a look at some of the materials for Legacy of the Ancestors and Stewards of the Valley. Even though I was already a little overloaded, I couldn't pass up the chance to get my hands on that stuff and give it a look over and see if I could find anything that could use a little rewording or polishing up. And I ended up giving you, what was it, Fischer? Like 75 pages altogether of suggestions.
Yeah, no, it was great. I felt a little guilty while you were simultaneously so busy getting all the taxes prepped, but like I couldn't not get the ChubFrog audit before we went to print, right? Like
you felt guilty. You had just come back from Gen Con. You had caught a bug. You had the Gen Con flu. We were like down to the last days to get all the files finalized and get everything to the factory. And I said, "Here, Fischer, have 75 pages of suggestions. Just run through that and get that all taken care of, could you?"
The good news about COVID is I wasn't going anywhere, so
you were locked in your room either way. So you just might as well sit at the computer and get that all knocked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, selling point to all of you who ordered Legacy, it got the ChubFrog audit before it went to print, so consider that a bonus.
No, so this time, any mistakes, you can blame me for everything. I had the chance to look at it right at the end, so whatever got missed, it's all on me.
It's all your fault. Not Maxine and I are blameless.
That's right. So once I finally got through, we got our 2023 taxes done, and now I'm kind of out of that big that big pressure of that whole initial period. So now I'm just kind of been poking around and pulling on different financial threads, and each one I find a new knot of things I have to untangle with. Oh, what's this web of transactions? Oh, that's a big mess between that I have to pull that all apart. Oh, what's going on with our VAT registration? Oh, that's kind of a mess. We don't control our own login, and some other company we're not using anymore has exclusive access to it, and we can't get control back of our own account. I got to get that all sorted out. And what's going on with our sales tax returns? Oh, that's those numbers don't look right. Something's going wrong there. So I got to figure that out. So lots of fun projects, but they're interesting, and it's fun to sort through different things and figure out what went wrong and or why things don't match what you think they should be, and get it all figured out and get it all squared away. So it's interesting to me anyway.
Sounds interesting to me too.
From what I understand of what you've reported at the Monday morning meetings, it sounds like no one in the world understands what VAT is or how it works, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of some
goo, right?
conflicting systems, and some of the European Union regulations have not quite figured out how to handle every different situation. We're kind of an unusual situation where we're not a European company, but we're producing in Europe and selling in Europe, and that's not kind of the standard situation. Usually either you're a European company or you're outside of Europe and you're bringing things into Europe for sale. So we're kind of a fairly unique situation, and most of the regulations were not really set up for our situation, and so you kind of got to feel through how to pay our taxes. So it's
Do you get it now, Evan?
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense to me now.
I still think it's for holding goo.
Can't we just become like a church though, and then we don't have to pay taxes?
Church of Earthborne.
I could become a deacon, or on paper, I'd be a deacon.
The deacon of art. Art deacon.
Well, thanks for the update, Sean. Oh, you want more?
Well,
more time?
know, this week I finally got to get my hands on Chubworld Eidalon, which was pretty exciting.
Was this your first playthrough? Was this week?
That was my first time. I mean,
okay.
Really, the reason I applied to work here. Andrew's not going to listen to this, right? He doesn't watch these.
He sure does. I mean, no, never.
Really, the only reason I came on is I just wanted to get an early look at Corey game. Or now we're calling it Chubworld Eidalon.
Yeah, now it's all good.
Or
you're still here.
Or as Turd the Third called. Oh, Anders, you and me got to talk about this.
Okay.
Our friend Turd the Third from Discord. He confirmed on Discord that he is not Turtle. He is Turd the Third. So we gotta get this right when we read his questions.
I don't think we have one from old Turd the Third today.
Nothing this week. We'll get him next time.
Turd the Third,
but
please.
We got to put some respect on that name. He comes from a long line. Well, from a moderately length line of turds.
3 generations. We got 4-year-olds listening to this show. Come on.
They think turds are funny.
That's the audience for turds. But I was gonna say, he called it Chubworld Eidalon, which I'm a fan of that name.
I love that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Can we still have some time? Can we talk to Corey and see if we can get that?
I'm sure Andrew will approve the branding, so you know.
Yeah, Andrew will be on.
I thought of a pun while you were talking. I thought of Stewarts of the Valley. Let's do that. Just Stewarts.
Like Stewart, the name?
Yeah, the name's Stewart.
It's a slightly less interesting expansion.
How many Stewarts are there?
How many?
There's 3. You get the 3 cards.
All
the
the
3
Stewarts that live in the valley.
A little simple game. That sounds up my alley there.
One of them has a whole plot line about his whittling. You know.
I don't know if Stewart really fits our naming convention. Are there any Stewarts in the valley?
It's not Star Warsy enough for to be an Earthborne name.
Yeah.
Well, it's spelled STOO space WORT.
I see. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Stewart.
Now you're getting there.
Getting closer. Sean, well, that was a great update. I was very interested, actually. You're a great member of the podcast family here. Got to have you on again. So bye. Just kidding. Let's move on. Did I cut you off, Sean? Did you have more to say?
No, I don't want to go on too long because as much as people are love the accounting and information, there's such a thing as too much of a good thing, and you gotta ration it out a little bit for the people. So next time we'll go deeper.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, let's keep it moving. Well, it's now time for Fisher's top 5 reads of all time. And how did you come to your picks? What was your criteria?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I took kind of the spirit of our most influential games of all time series and applied it here, where I was trying to think of what books had the biggest impact on me, like influenced me the most. There is some crossover with my favorite books of all time, but like I'd say these, I'm calling this my like top 5 most influential books on me.
Okay. Awesome.
And I extended book slightly beyond. I'm not just novels. I don't know if the intention was like novels, but I mostly went for book.
Okay.
Just as long as it was some form of book.
Yeah.
I think it fits the assignment.
Mm-hmm. Book.
I also cheated because my first book is not actually one book. So I'm cheating in multiple ways.
Footsteps.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So presented in no particular order, maybe slightly chronologically, I guess. Yeah, pretty close, I guess. But like, all right. So number 1 is. This is the one that's more of a series, a trilogy than a book, which is The Lord of the Rings.
Heard of it?
It might be, yeah. This little series, obscure. I don't know. It's felt to, in my like most influential games, did like Netrunner, and I did an honorable mention to Magic, but I chose Netrunner because it was a little more. Its idiosyncrasies were more influential on my design philosophy. I thought about that a bit with a lot of the fantasy series I like, but ultimately they all kind of owe their lineage to the Lord of the Rings. And so I kind of kept coming back to them. And also, you know, I know Lord of the Rings is meaningful to a lot of nerds, but it's like one of my earliest memories is my dad reading to me as a kid in bed. And like he started with like The Hobbit and did the Lord of the Rings, like probably before I definitely before I could fully appreciate it. But you know, he loved Tolkien, and like he would sing all the songs and everything. And so like they were very meaningful to me even from a very young age. And then obviously working in games and consuming a ton of fantasy literature and other media, it like, you know, you can feel all of it kind of existing in the shadow of Lord of the Rings, right? Like you can see the lineage. And so because of that, I just couldn't not choose it as my first book series, you know, or like it's just influenced so much of what we make, right? Like the influences are definitely in Rangers as well. So
great pick. Isn't it technically one book though? Didn't he want it to be one?
Is it?
Yeah, I think I heard that he was originally going to publish it as one book.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So not even cheating that bad.
Nope, not at all.
Because of I think my dad started with The Hobbit, and my earliest memories, I considered selecting The Hobbit, but The Lord of the Rings, like the other parts of my answer, like the legacy is definitely, I feel like Lord of the Rings has a more meaningful footprint in that way.
Sweet.
All right, so my next book up, this is also kind of chronological. This is a book I loved when I was a kid, and just poured over. Is called. There's been a few different versions of it, but the version I had was called "The Way Things Work."
Oh yeah,
and
those are
so.
Great.
This is the one. This is not really like, this is probably my most stretching the definition, like of, but it's like a like illustrated guide to the way things work.
Oh yeah, I remember this book.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Those are great.
Yeah,
and it has like all these different illustrations on different machines and mechanisms. I think there was like one kind of more for the information age, but the earlier one focused more on like engineering things instead of electronics. And so like when I was a kid, I just loved this thing, and like I found it like super interesting, you know, and I would be that annoying kid fun facting people about how like stuff, you know, how stuff works. And like I think that book was super formative for me, and like, you know, I think my love of design comes from this desire to know how like break things apart and see all the different pieces. I still to this day, I listen to like podcasts that talk about the functionality of policy and all these things. And, you know, then like I fun fact people at parties about things I learned on those podcasts. And like a lot of it I can trace back to this kid sitting there with The Way Things Work and just rereading and rereading all these different things. So, well, like, I don't even know if I have a copy now. It like definitely informed the person I am today a lot. It was probably one of the most worn books on my bookshelf when I was a kid.
That's awesome. Do you have a memory of fun facting any of those things you learned as a child in school?
Oh yeah, like, and you know, like,
like a specific example?
Well, no, I unfortunately don't have like a hyper concrete one, but I do the memories that, because I'm an socially anxious person, the memories that always stick with me are when like people are annoyed by the fun facts, right? So I definitely have memories of being like, you know, actually, this is how this works, and then being like, okay, you know, thanks, buddy.
Oh.
You know, and kind of realizing that like you were that annoying kid.
No, you guys, but this is really interesting. Did you know about this?
Yeah.
You're making me want to get this book again, because I had this exact same book on my shelf.
Really cool illustrations too.
Yeah.
Love it. Good choice. All right, what's your next one?
Yeah, so my next one is actually a repeat from Maxine. I originally wasn't, I was just going to make a different pick, so I didn't repeat, but it has been pretty meaningful to how I approach stuff. This one's a lot more recent, but is House of Leaves. So that is the book Maxine talked about. It's kind of this like slight psychological horror book, but like it also has these like nested narratives of story within a story. And the book presents the text because it's like, because of some things about the way the narrative is collected, the text is all over the place in different orientations coming from different sources. And there's like unreliable narrators and just this kind of layering that makes it one of the most like complex and sometimes exhausting reads of anything I've ever read. My friends and I kind of read it as a book club. And I honestly think if we hadn't done that, I wouldn't have gotten all the way through it because I would have just like felt too exhausted to go back for the next chapter sometimes. But
yeah, it sounds like if you really want to follow all the little details of it, it's really a lot of work you got to put in.
Oh yeah, there's people who have really like picked apart and mapped it. Doing it as a book club was kind of nice because everybody notices different things, and together talking about each chapter later, you would kind of assemble a bigger picture than you got on your own, which was kind of cool. But I rate it as one of my more influential books. One, because it really stuck with me, but two, because of the non-standard approach to the narrative. Really, like, that kind of has stuck in my brain and kept me kind of thinking about these stories. I have another book that did something kind of similar, which is S, or The Ship of Theseus, the J.J. Abrams book. But that one's a lot more kind of accessibly produced, and it uses kind of two people doing these layered footnotes as like its non-linear narrative that doesn't quite land the same way, and it isn't as deep as how House of Leaves approaches it. But it's got me thinking a lot about storytelling and narrative, and like in some ways it is like, because it's kind of this non-linear narrative positioned this different way, it gets me thinking about how we approach narrative in games as well. And while you can't see any one-to-one from House of Leaves to Rangers, I can definitely tell you that like my thinking on nonlinear narrative and how it informs how we designed Mansions of Madness scenarios and the branching app integrated ones for that board game. Legacy of Dragonholt, Nikki Valens's design, and then like going into things like Earthborne Rangers that is informed by some of those ideas. Like all of those kind of took inspiration from things like House of Leaves. So that's why it's on my list.
Awesome.
Okay, so my next book, this one is also breaking from the like novel approach, but long-time listeners of the podcast, at some point I showed off like my wild Notion board and like some of the systems I use to organize my life, which are a little like intense. So as I kind of got further in my career, I like faced this. I started doing like being responsible for a lot of different things and like trying to juggle, you know, multiple game projects, managing people, you know, like when I was at FFG, like all my director responsibilities. You know, here I've got other contracts outside of Earthborne, like, you know, with things like the Cosmere RPG. And so like juggling all of this, I'm theoretically, and it's ironic for that, I'm a bit of a disorganized person, and like or I use the organization to like fight my more disorganized heart. But so I've used a lot of all this backstories to say I've used a lot of different books and techniques to try to kind of create these systems for me to help manage this stuff. And I think the most meaningful book to me of all of these that I've ever read, and the one I recommend to people who are kind of in a similar overburdened situation, is a book called Make Time. It's really interesting. And like there's a lot of self-help books out there where the author had like one idea, one thesis, and basically stretches it across a whole book. And just like, it's a bunch of examples or like little examinations. And like, it's a good idea, but like, this book could have been an internet article basically. But Make Time is cool because it's by a couple, I think like at least one of them is ex-Google. But they just kind of give you a bunch of different recommendations on how to help in like a life that has become like all meetings and like tasks, overflowing task lists and stuff, a way to kind of focus, prioritize, and like manage your time. And their approach to it is they have some high level suggestions, but then they give you just like big long lists of different techniques that have worked for them or other people. And the idea of the book is not that like you follow every piece of their advice, but instead they're like, here are different approaches to achieve a larger goal. And you should probably achieve this goal in some way, but like find the technique that works best for you. And I read it at the right time in my life where I was really facing a lot of this overburdened stuff. And like, I really like, it was just chock full of different approaches instead of like one idea stretched across the book. And like, a lot of them sound like common sense, but they're the kind of things that like, sure, like it's common sense to say it out loud, but it's another thing to implement it in your life. And they offer a lot of really practical advice to do so. And so I think it probably had the most meaningful and deep impact on how I organize myself, and really kind of changed the trajectory on how I was handling like work.
Cool.
So yeah.
Their website says Make Time is not macho or hardcore. And then I was sold. That's my first.
Yes, that's the tagline for the book. We are not macho or hardcore.
Yeah. Well, that's what my first thought is like. Oh, it's going to be one of those like how to be more productive. You got to get up at 4:30 and blah blah blah. So that's cool.
Exactly. That kind of toxic productivity. Yeah, grind set.
Yeah, no grind set. Sweet. I'm interested. All right, number one.
But yes, like I think no, I was just gonna say, Anders, I was gonna agree that your point is like there's a ton of toxic productivity stuff out there, and like I've read a lot of those books, and you can get some insights out of them, but like these guys do not have that kind of mentality, which helps.
Sweet. I like.
So my last book. This definitely isn't like building up to like the most. So this is I alluded to this one earlier, maybe before we were on the air. I had the hardest time picking this slot, and I chose this book because I've been thinking about it a lot recently. And one of my favorite podcasts has been doing this like monthly examination of the book. They're kind of doing a book club where across a year they kind of look at this book, and it's got me thinking about it again. Since I read it quite a long time ago now. But it's this book called The Power Broker. Have you guys heard of this?
Mm-mm.
So it's by Robert Caro. He's actually probably more known for, he did this incredibly robust deep dive biography of Lyndon B. Johnson that you might have heard of. I think that's a slightly more famous biography. But before he did this, he did The Power Broker, which is a similar deep dive biography on this man, Robert Moses. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. He's like, Robert Moses is like if you've ever watched a movie where there is like a crooked city official who wants to tear down the orphanage to build a highway or whatever, that is parodying Robert Moses.
Okay.
He was this guy from the early 1900s who basically took over New York City, and he was the parks commissioner technically. He never got elected. It was all appointed positions, but he kind of just like used the fact he was really good at writing laws and a combination of that and just acquiring these different appointed positions to slowly accrue power until he was the single most powerful person in charge of all of construction and road building in all of New York. And this book Robert Caro is, the thing he is known for doing is like this deep dive journalism where he dedicates like a decade of his life, if not more, to just researching one topic. And So like everything in the book is just hyper thoroughly researched, and he really, for a long time, some people didn't like Moses, but he was kind of viewed as this good figure who, cut through red tape and like, turned New York into the great metropolis it is. And the Power Broker and Caro's work actually kind of shined a light on him and revealed that like all of the awful things he was doing to displace thousands, if not tens of thousands of like, poorer people from poor neighborhoods, especially targeting people of color and displacing them from the city, and how like his road projects basically bankrupted New York, and the kind of fall of New York City in all the late 1900s, and how rough things were in New York City, how a lot of it can be traced back to Moses. And so Caro's biography really shined a light on this. And it's maybe a weird choice for this most influential book, but I think it does a couple things. One big thing is it really dives into what seems like, it's like New York City infrastructure policy and politics, right? Like, but it's really interesting to see the inner workings of this, and like to see politics from like 100 years ago, and how like a lot of the structures we take for granted now didn't even exist back then, and like how like just people working together, and how this man kind of exploited people working together and like used it to accrue power. Like thinking about that across the scope of decades, and the way Caro researches it all, but also like ties it together into this interesting narrative, really gets you thinking about the world and about like American policy and politics. And then also just Robert Caro himself is really kind of inspirational and interesting. The dedication, like he was like a newspaper reporter before this book, and he left and was basically like, I'm going to dedicate over a decade of my life. I don't know if he planned it for it to be a decade, but he like was just like, I'm going to write this. I'm going to basically scrape by. My wife and I are going to barely make ends meet so that I could write one of the most thorough biographies in human history. And then the Power Broker ended up funding him enough that I think that helped fund the Lyndon B. Johnson books, which go even deeper. And I think he spent like 2 decades writing or something ludicrous like that. There's a story from that where he needed these interviews with this neighborhood, and they were very insular and did not trust him, and so they would not talk to him. But he needed this for this book. This is the Lyndon B. Johnson book. So he and his wife sell their house and move to their neighborhood and become their neighbors and live alongside them for 3 years until they build up trust in him as their neighbor. And then he gets the interview from them.
Wow.
Like, this man has dedication that, like, it's unbelievable. And so both the book and its examination of, like, public policy and politics, but then also Caro and his approach, like, both affected me pretty deeply and, like, made me kind of rethink a lot of things. So that's how this book ended up on here.
Sounds like the plot of a comedy movie that you go to these great lengths to try to figure out how to get an interview.
I know, right? Like, it's he's and Caro himself is still alive, and it's kind of cool. The podcast that's doing this like deep dive on the book is like they interviewed him at the beginning, and they're going to interview him at the end of it, and like because Moses is long dead, the subject of Power Broker, but Caro, because he's kind of old now, overlapped with Moses. And so like when he was writing the Power Broker, he still had like interviews with Moses. And so there's still kind of this through line, which is interesting. It's funny because like Moses was like kind of a little bit of an egomaniac and like was giving Caro all this stuff. And then Caro in his interview said that like there was just one fact, like one thing from Moses's past, and he brought it up, and like that's the moment he could see on the man's face that he realized that like Caro, his book was not going to be positive, and like basically shut up and didn't say a single word to him, and he was never invited back.
Wow.
Like he just brought up one little thing from this guy's past, and that just that word, like he suddenly realized that like I should not talk to this man. So it was interesting.
Wow.
What is this podcast?
The podcast, it's my favorite podcast. It's called 99% Invisible. It's kind of it's ostensibly about architecture, but it's more about just kind of like the modern built world and like design philosophies that inform cities and human policy. And it's kind of NPR style pieces about these things, and they're incredibly well produced. Love the show. And so they're doing kind of a spin-off series. Just the head of this brought in this guy who loves the Power Broker from a different podcast, and they're doing this kind of book club this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's a cool list. Good choices.
Yep. Thank you for letting me rant about books.
I like it.
Hopefully some folks found that interesting. I'd be curious if there's other. I feel like there's probably some other 99PI listeners in our midst. So
I'm gonna start
listening.
listening.
We'll hear from them.
Fisher, are any of those books like the most fun you had reading a book, or is there another one that you would say this was? Because you said they were the most influential, but what was the most fun?
Yeah. What was the most fun I ever had reading a book? Oh, that's a good question.
Where you're just like, this is great. I love this. Can't wait to read it more.
I mean, like, that probably ties a bit to time of life too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, this is issue for my 1,000 therapists here, but like, I don't know if I've like had as much fun reading books, especially in the last like decade of my life. I've read a lot, but I feel like it's always for work somewhat. I'll be like, even if I'm not directly working on something that has a book, like when I was working on Lord of the Rings, but like it'll be, well, I'm working on X or Y things, so why don't I read some adjacent things in the same genre to kind of like as research or inspiration, right? And when there's that edge to like reading for work, I don't know if I have as much fun necessarily.
Yeah.
So maybe the most fun I ever had reading books was like reading Dragonlance in high school, which are like, I've heard from friends who have tried to go back and read them, I've heard they do not hold up. But in high school, I loved reading like the Wise and Hickman Dragonlance books and like talking about them with my friends and then going and playing D&D. Like, I think that was probably like peak reading for me.
Nice.
But in more recent memory, I don't know. I actually think some of the most excited I get reading might be like some of my RPGs, because I get excited for the prospect of running it and like think the ideas are cool, but it's not quite the same as like that fun reading a novel that you get.
Well, thanks, Fisher. Thanks for sharing. I enjoyed it. And let's move on to some questions, y'all. And the first one comes from Donald. Will Team Covenant be a key retailer partner for Chubworld like they are on EBR?
Oh, yeah. That's, well, given that Andrew just was on their channel this week talking about the game, that should give you a hint. We'll definitely keep working with Covenant going forward. We've been very happy with their support on Earthborne, so on Rangers, and so we definitely intend to continue using them. I can't say exactly what all of our various retail plans look like going forward, but I do know that like we love working with Covenant and we intend to continue as long as they're interested in it.
Sweet. There's your answer. All right, next one comes from D. Cheds. There was some discussion on the Discord of Legends of the Hidden Temple. The actual Legends of the Hidden Temple board game from Pressman Toy Core is abysmally bad. How would the Earthborne Games team make a Legends of the Hidden Temple game that didn't suck?
I'm not familiar with this
game. They're talking about the show with the
Olmec
fake temple and kids go through it or something.
Yep, on Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
it was a 90s game show with
I remember seeing that show, but I don't recall. I don't know about this board game.
I definitely haven't played the Legends of the Hidden Temple board game. I do have a Blue Barracudas T-shirt though.
What is that?
That's one of the teams. All of the different teams are different animals. Oh no, I'm not going to remember them all. It's
Wow.
like red monkeys. So there's red jaguars, green monkeys, orange iguanas, purple parrots, blue barracudas, silver snakes.
Sound like names you would throw out when you're trying to like name your t-ball team when you're 7, you know? We're the red jaguars. Jaguars. Okay, does anybody have any thoughts on this?
You don't have a live pitch for us on your concept for the board game, Fisher?
Evan, did you watch this show back when you were young?
I don't recall watching a full episode, but I remember being thoroughly impressed by the sets, like the production value of it. I mean, I don't know, maybe the whole show, the production value would fall apart to me if I watched a whole episode, but I remember seeing like these, like Aztec looking temple facades and things, and that was all really cool. So I mean, I would probably lean into that if I were making a board game, but I don't know. That would cost a lot.
Yeah, no, so it's kind of got this like, it's kind of got that obstacle course kind of vibe as you try to get through this thing, and then you have the temple guardians who jump out at you. But like, how do you capture the fun of like, I think there's a lot of it was like wanting to be those kids, like imagining if you could handle it, and like, so sure you could like do a board game that captured the procedure of the show, but I don't actually think that would necessarily capture like the fun and excitement of actually being in it,
Well, maybe it was an asymmetrical thing where one person is in a more meta role of like they're running the show, so they know what's going on behind the scenes, the monsters that are going to jump out, and then the other players are in the role of the kids, and those players get to experience the game as a kid would, expecting actual monsters to come jumping out at them or something. So it's kind of like a hidden information asymmetrical game or something. I don't know.
That's kind of interesting because usually, they also had teams competing, but you could have like teams of players, and then you have one person who's like the host who's messing with them all. Gets to play like the temple guardians and things. I feel like I'm sorry, I don't have a full live pitch for you on the Legends of the Hidden Temple off the top of my head here.
I was more into Nick Arcade. Did you guys ever watch Nick Arcade?
No. Is that the one where kids get to they wore like Velcro outfits and they got to run through and stick a bunch of Nintendo games on their bodies, their Velcro suits and helmets?
That may have been like a portion of it, but I know the final round was them going into a video game.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like a blue screen or whatever.
Yeah.
So you could tell they were like looking off camera at like where they were trying to like grab coins and stuff.
Like
and
it was
like
person
never working.
And it makes it seem like they're all terrible at the game because they're reaching for something that's right in front of them. Except for them, it's not right in front of them.
The host is just struggling to make the show interesting for the viewers.
And you're watching it and you're like, oh, I could do so much better.
These kids suck. Nick Arcade was great.
And I also think of The Wizard. Do you remember that movie, The Wizard?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great one.
Mario 3 debut. Thanks for the question. D-Chads, he also has another question. If there were EBR-based Legends of the Hidden Temple teams, what colors and EBR critters would be paired together? Wow, I'm sorry we missed that when we were already talking about it.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be Lutrinals, right?
Yeah, what color are they?
What's an L color? Lavender Lutrinals?
Well, we just choose like the paths that they're from, and that's the color they get. Maybe.
Oh, so Lutrinals would be like blue?
Yeah.
That's not alliterative, though.
Blue Lutrinals.
Okay.
The Blutrinals.
There you go.
All right, next question comes from Haddock. When will people who missed the latest Rangers Kickstarter be able to purchase the game? Will we be able to buy from the publisher's website directly at some point?
So to the previous Team Covenant question, you'll be able to buy and can actually pre-order right now the Rangers and expansions and everything. The next printing, all our expansions from the Kickstarter, everything over on Covenant's website. if you go to our website, there's a link right there to that. So that is if you are in North America. I actually think the US specifically. If you're outside of that, the Naylor Games Store will have copies available. So you can go to Naylor Games and check that out if you're in Europe. And then additionally, we are selling to some retailers and to some distribution outside of the US. So there will be limited copies in retail, but your best bet for getting copies is going to be to go to Covenant if you're here, and the Naylor Game Store if you're in Europe.
Now, if you could make it to PAX Unplugged, you just might be able to get your hands on a copy there as well.
We're planning on having a ton, so
cool.
So you want to rent a van and leave to get more?
Yeah. Oh, please no, not again. Though, yeah, the more of you who come and buy it at PAX, the fewer we have to drive home. So please come out.
We'll sell out.
Will they also be able to meet ChubFrog in person?
ChubFrog will be there.
Nice.
Meet ChubFrog at PAX Unplugged.
I better buy
as long as he's not
plane ticket.
As long as he's not too busy answering my questions as I'm demoing a game and forgetting some rules.
All right, we just have one more question. In Rangers, is from Helion. In Rangers, the test to remember one's Ranger training forces the drawing of a Ranger card. Why is that, ChubFrog?
Oh.
Yeah,
see,
Sean,
this is
go ahead. Answer this design philosophy question.
This is more of a I was going to say this is more of a design philosophy than a technical rule question.
Oh, is it?
But why do you think?
Well, I know Fischer doesn't like to make it too easy on people. He wants to give people hard choices. So, you can sort your deck a little bit and look for the card you want, but you're going to have to draw and shorten your day if you do. You don't want to make your filtering too strong, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. We definitely during design we're a little worried about filtering because if you can, in some games where your adversary is a deck of cards, which some games really rely, like Lord of the Rings especially, really relies on the cooperative card game, really relies on that deck feeding you challenges and being your opponent, right? And so we kind of had this mentality that the Path deck was similar. We've really changed that mentality over time, right? We think of our game more like an RPG, and the Path deck's like the world. And we don't necessarily think we need to push the players as much. But at the time, we were worried about that. And so for a long time, scouting, which is what this lets you do, had draw built in. And then we pulled that out just for some technical reasons. But we kept it with it for a lot because, we wanted to push the timer on remembering. But we also wanted it to be kind of this, we think, filtering your deck, it forcing that draw kind of creates this interesting moment, especially if you draw, like say you scout 2, you look at the top 2 cards and you don't want either. But, if you don't have to draw, you just put them on bottom. Maybe you get to scout again until you get the card you want. But if you have to draw, you're kind of, that choice is a little more interesting. You're having to choose, do I want to draw one of these 2 cards or do I want something completely random? And so it kind of puts that immediate pressure on the choice as well. So not only is it to add a little pressure to your day and to help keep filtering from letting you fully control your game experience, but it's also to add a little pressure to that choice.
Yeah, it does make the choice a little more interesting. You can look at 1 or 2 cards and you say, well, these aren't exactly the card I want, but do I think this is better than the average card that's going to come out of my deck, or a random
what else
card
do I have
come out of my deck? So it does make for an interesting choices sometimes.
Great. Well, thanks for all of your questions. We didn't have that many this week. Did we whittle them down?
A little bit, but I think our last episode was the big Eidalon Q&A, and then Andrew was taking questions on the Covenant stream. Mm-hmm. So because of that, we just had fewer questions than in the past.
We should have pulled more from the questions from last time. I think we answered 10% of them from the live podcast.
Yeah. Well, I felt bad doing it. Andrew's not here. Corey's not here.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe next time Corey's on, we'll pull from all the spillover Eidalon Q&A questions to grill Corey with.
Top 5 questions from there. All right, that leads us to the video, the Anders Corner, whatever it's called. Anders Corner. What's it called? Indie Game Corner.
Yeah.
Well, I've just been playing UFO 50. That's it. It's 50 games.
It's going to take you a while to get through all those.
I know. And they're mostly amazing, I think. There's two up my alley to want to play another game. So I'm excited for a couple games that I just downloaded before we started this. One is called Neva. It's from the creator of Grease. Looks like Gris, but it's GR. I think it's pronounced Greek. Anyway, that was a beautiful game visually, and it was, engrossing and fun. They just released a new game. Looks similar, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to like that one. And I downloaded another one called Kill Knight that has some good reviews. But
Knight?
Yeah, Knight. Looks kind of like a horde kind of survival game. Horde survival.
Oh yeah, that key art is kind of rad.
It is. It's super cool looking. And just loving Monster Train. I'm just kind of my addiction is to play Monster Train. I think it's great.
All right, you have so UFO 50.
Yes.
What's your favorite game from there so far? Has it changed from the last time we talked?
Oh no, I'd have to look at the list.
Don't say game one, whatever that's called.
Barbuda.
Why? Is that
it sucks?
Oh, it's bad.
You tried it more? Did you try it more?
Well, I did, and I just can't figure it out.
I mean, it's
I think that's kind of the fun of it, right? It's like old games that you had to figure out because they
supposed to be the fun of
tutorialize everything, so you kind of gotta.
Evan doesn't want to go back.
Oh, my new favorite for a while was Party House. It's like a drafting game, I guess you could call it, where you it looks kind of like an 80s or 90s party, and you collect new characters to put into your deck, and you just draft them, but and they kind of line up in this house, and you're just trying to throw the best party. You can't make the trouble get too high, so if there's an X, it's trouble. So it's maybe what would be trouble? Like a monkey or an alien or something. So then different characters have abilities that kind of mitigate that trouble. So there'll be a hippie, and that kind of brings the level of the party down a little bit.
Chills the vibe.
Yeah. So you're kind of balancing out two different kind of currencies. One is popularity, the other is I think just actual money. And I don't know, it just balanced really well, and it's just broken up into 6 scenarios that have different characters within them, and they kind of have a theme. And you just try to beat the 6 scenarios. It's not an endless kind of roguelike, but it's more strategy. I really loved Party House. Check out Party House if you have it.
So you're putting together a deck?
Yeah, it's a deck. But it's
kind of like a tableau builder. Yeah.
They snuck a deck builder game into what's supposed to be simulating 80s style video games.
There's
I don't know if that
games
fits
like
the theme.
that, I think there's a couple more like that.
That are kind of...
That's really kind of a modern style of game, I think. I don't know if that fits the 80s theme for UFO 50.
Well, they're kind of... It's like this alternate universe where this cool, site, this forgotten... what would you call it? Publisher or whatever discovered the deck builder.
Okay, I gotta dig more into my UFO 50 lore.
Are you a video game player?
Oh yeah,
Sean. Okay,
for sure.
Check it out. Did you buy it? Did you try the game?
No, not yet. I will though.
Is it on Switch or is it just on Steam?
On Steam right now.
Oh, I don't have a Steam Deck. Playing in bed is a big perk for bit games for me right now.
I know. Get a Steam Deck. That's all I play. And then another one I liked on there is a Tactics. It's like a...
That's a good
I don't
name.
know what you'd call it. Did you play that a little bit, Evan?
I'm looking it up right now because I can't remember.
I guess it would be a strategy battle kind of game where you...
Oh yeah, it's kind of looks like Advanced Wars where you've got the grid.
Sorta.
Is that the one where the characters charge at each other?
Yeah, every 3 seconds or so, a new character
or wave
kind of comes out, and you just kind of move them up and down around the board, and pretty simple.
But it's like real time.
Real time though, yeah.
I interesting.
The style of the sprites, the characters, and that. It took me a little while to get the hang of the gameplay, but I have played it. It's fun.
Just fun games and great sprites, great artwork. Another one is Alphazar's Hat.
I haven't played that one.
That one's got great art. I love the art of Alphazar's Hat. Alphazar. That one for me wins for the art, for the pixel art. And speaking of pixel art, I've also been starting work on a pixel art game with my friends, and that's been fun. Yeah,
nice.
It's kind of like Evan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still part of that Discord page you have, and I saw that you were.
Oh, really?
I was working one evening, and I saw that you were meeting, and I was going to ask you about that. So that's cool. It's exciting.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to hit you up when it comes time to make the like key art or the was that what you would call the like box art basically now?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Legitimately, if you want a play tester, I will play your game.
I was thinking about that, Fisher. I was like, I got to hand this to Fisher to like give me some tips, and it's so far it's like it's based on like a Breakout Arkanoid style game.
Sweet.
We were thinking of making it a roguelike, but maybe that's beyond our abilities right now. But
roguelike Breakout, I like it.
Yeah, roguelike Breakout.
Anders, I like, you've played so many roguelikes. I don't know if, I mean, like, maybe it's beyond like your team's programming abilities or whatever, but like, I have faith that you could design some good roguelike mechanics if you need to.
Maybe like a simpler roguelike, like a Nuclear Throne, where it's just like, pretty basic options. But the thing that I'm thinking about in designing a roguelike that's more fun is that in like playing those games for research, it gets a little dry when you're just sitting there waiting for the ball. When there's like one brick left and you're just like, I can't quite get it. That's the problem I'm trying to solve. How do we make it more fun in that moment of the game?
Yeah, can you like boost the ball or something?
Yeah,
is there some kind of limited resource to like give the ball a boost no matter where it is?
Right, like in Arkanoid, you can shoot like a little flame ball up there. But is there something else?
Sorry to derail, but I've been calling it for the last 30 years. I've been calling it Arachnoid. I didn't know it was Arkanoid.
That's funny because I always thought it was Arkanov because the ID kind of looks like a V. Maybe I'm wrong. Is it What did you say? What did you call it?
No, I called it Arachnoid, but I just looked it up. It's Arkanoid. That sounds way cooler.
Yeah, I've always said Arkanoid. Yeah,
Arachnoid.
I thought maybe it had something to do with spiders.
So look forward to our game.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
In ChubFrog, you can do our finances. Okay.
You're just recruiting the whole Earthborne team out from under Andrew.
You all quit to work on a Breakout game. Like, I think this is the future.
This is it.
This is it. I think
Andrew's gone for one podcast episode, and Andrew snipes the whole team.
Next episode, where are you guys? Hello, is anyone here?
There's a news report about how Breakout is sweeping the country. Revival and Breakout, popularity.
Okay, let's go to Evan.
Yeah, I wrote on the show notes that I've been playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And I've been mainly playing that because I get up so early, and it's the only time I have, like, personal time I have, really. So I just wanted something to do, and I always play it through this time of year because I get excited for Halloween, and
nice.
It's very much a Halloween game for me. And every time I play it, I just love the little touches they have, extra details that you don't need to have in a game that probably don't exist in a lot of games nowadays. Like, for example, Anders, did you play it? Or no, you played a little bit of it.
Yeah, I was talking to you when I was trying, because I know you've always talked about loving that game so much.
So in Dracula's Castle, which is where the game takes place, like all of them, there's a chapel area, and there's like a little confessional, like a Catholic style confessional booth. And your character can interact with both the seat where the confessor sits and the priest. And when you do that, a spirit will will appear in the other spot and do something cool and fun and unexpected, and it's not necessary, but
cool.
I don't know, it's a little extra touch that makes the game feel like was handled with such love. And there's a lot of useless abilities that you'd never use that they put a lot of time into developing, and it's just kind of fun that it's there.
What platform do you play this on?
I got this like Castlevania double pack off the PlayStation Network, so I've been playing it on the PS5. So
it's just not
Rondo
available.
of Blood and Symphony of the Night, and I haven't played Rondo of Blood yet because it's super hard.
Oh yeah.
So
Rondo is a classic style Castlevania. They kind of stopped making those after Symphony of the Night because that model was so popular that every Castlevania after that is a Metroid style Castlevania. And I really like the Metroid style games, but it's kind of sad that the classic Castlevania style kind of died out after that.
Is classic more level based?
It's very linear and difficult and punishing and
hard.
Yeah. Although Simon's Quest was kind of open ended, it wasn't strictly linear.
Yeah, that's true.
Game sucked.
It's the only game I ever played, I think, of Castlevania is Simon's Quest on the Tiger Electronics thing. That was my first video game ever, was that Simon's Quest Tiger.
That's probably more fun than the actual
better than the NES one.
Maybe.
Anders, you're just like, I don't see what everybody sees in this Castlevania series.
But other than that, I've already gotten to the end of that game because it's pretty quick. And I could play more and grind and get cool little pieces of equipment and stuff, but I think I'm ready to move on. But I have been playing here and there UFO 50, and I was telling Anders that I really liked Bushido Ball.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of an old Nintendo game called Dodgeball. And in Bushido Ball, you play as these samurai who are using their weapons to bat a dodgeball back and forth in a court.
It's very much like Windjammers too. Did you ever play that? It's just like Windjammers.
It's a cool name though.
Yeah. It's like a yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Windjammers. I'm gonna look that up. But I think I chose the most difficult player to play as because each player has stats, and I chose one of the slowest ones with a lot of with the highest ranking in technique or something or control. They have an ability that lets you trap the ball. But I would get so worked up in the back and forth that I would forget to trigger it. But the game would produce a lot of, for having simple mechanics like 2 buttons. All the games in the UFO 50 have 2 buttons aside from the D-pad, and for having such simple commands, you can really produce a lot of interesting interaction with the back and forth because of timing and because of the momentum that the ball can have and all sorts of factors. So I got really sucked into that.
Yeah, you got to teach me how to play, because a lot of the games don't have any. I mean, none of the games have any instructions on how to play. A little bit in the menu, but I don't get how to actually play Evan. So I'd love.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, we were gonna get together.
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago and play it, but I bailed. But
does it have co-op couch? Does it have couch multiplayer or anything old school games?
Just 2-player,
cool.
I think.
Yeah, many games do have that.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I've been enjoying. There's a game called Grimstone on there, which is a JRPG, and it has a really cool premise. You're in some weird. I can't tell, and that's what I love about the game. I can't tell if you're in hell or if it's an apocalypse, and there's angels and demons. There's not enough to the game to tell you what the setting is. But you start off as an angel who appears in a saloon that is burning down in a Wild West setting, and you have the option of choosing 4 of 7 outlaws to save, and then those outlaws become your party, and they each have their own abilities and things like that, and it plays out a lot like a JRPG where you just take turns attacking in a turn-based scenario. But there's a little slider that has a hot zone where you want to hit the attack button at the right time. I'm not sure if there's a name for that sort of like...
It's like a Mario RPG kind of thing, I think.
Okay.
More of a visual instead of a...
Yep. So that's kind of fun.
Like those old golf games where you got to get the thing to line up right with the...
Mm-hmm. Why is that fun? I love that when that's in a game. Timing.
I think it's fun for this because there's a lot of, even though I have a lot of love for JRPGs, they do get redundant and kind of boring. At least the battle does.
I think it kind of it keeps you like on your toes a little bit during something that can otherwise kind of start to you kind of get a little rote. You lean back in your chair and
yeah. So it's exciting to play Grimstone because I'm curious about how much story a small 1 out of 50 game has, because this one definitely seems more narrative based.
I hear it's 30 hours.
Is it 30 hours?
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I was thinking it's going to be 5 hours.
Wow. That's crazy that they put 50 games that have that much substance to them.
This game is wild.
It is. I mean, it's been in development for like 7 years, I think.
And ironically, there's another game I started playing it's another cowboy themed game called Rail Heist, and I really don't understand the mechanics, but it seems like it has the potential to be really fun because it's almost like you're a cowboy and you perform like a heist on a train, and once you do your action, then all of the guards will play out their actions, and if you're close to them, they'll see you and shoot you. So you have to really be you have to use a lot of strategy, and I'm getting wrecked in it, but it's fun to kind of learn how it plays out as you go.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
Grimstone is 20 hours long. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, still, that's quite a bit.
Yeah. Feel like a reactions stand.
Fisher and Sean, I'd love to see if you guys play it. I'd love to know what you guys think.
Yeah, I do really want to play it. And actually, it's funny, this ties into something on my list, but we'll get to it.
I don't know if it's just the circle of things that I pay attention to, but it feels like a major moment in gaming. Maybe just
other than that, though,
indie gamers.
I played Bug Hunter. That's kind of fun.
I loved
hate Barbuda, the first one.
Bug Hunter, I beat. That was the first one.
Really?
Yeah,
that game is hard.
But once you go ahead, Sean.
I was gonna say Evan hates the first game so much, but you'd think they'd put their most exciting one right up front to give people the
It feels like
impression.
a choice. It feels like a choice. Some people, a lot of people like it a lot. So,
are you saying? I'm choosing to hate it.
I can see why people hate it.
I'm just surprised that they chose to put one up front that would be so controversial.
It's their choice.
Well, is it chronological?
Yeah, it's supposed to be chronological. Yeah.
So it's chronological in this fake studios like oeuvre.
Yeah, it was
made. It makes sense. It makes sense that there's no learning curve to it or anything, and they just throw you in it because a lot of the oldest games I remember are like that. So I get it, but I don't have to like it.
Right.
I feel like
you appreciate the artistic intent.
Yeah,
you just hate the game.
Yeah,
kind of me too.
We should all pick this up. Like, or at least have the two of you guys do like a UFO 50 tier list special podcast episode where we make you tier list all the games.
Yeah. You guys play too. I would like to know what Fisher thinks of Barbuda. It just is interesting.
Right.
It's interesting. All right,
anyways,
we got to move on.
I could go on and on about all the other games that I'm looking forward to playing, but I can hold off for the next time we talk about it.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's all I think about. All I think about is UFO 50. Okay, how about Sean? Got some stuff you want to talk about?
Well, we already mentioned this past week. I've been playing some Chubworld Eidalon, which I don't know how much I can talk about that, but that's a pretty exciting one.
I liked when you played the first game, and then I asked you to build the deck for your next game, and then that night, I got a bunch of fiddly rules questions, and I'm like, oh, I see he's building a tricky blue deck. I know what cards you're looking at.
Yeah, you asked me to make a deck for the next session, so you as a consequence you got peppered all night with how does this card work exactly? What happens with this combination? Or
I didn't even design this game.
It's just like, I don't know, I didn't make this game. Leave me alone. Yeah.
that it?
I don't know how much I can say about Eidolon, but it's had a lot of fun with it. It has a lot of the things that were fun about Netrunner. Where when you're playing Netrunner and you put down your agent, there's that thrill you get because you're looking your opponent in the eye and he doesn't know what you just put down, and it might be an agenda or it might be something else. And when you put down the agenda, you've got it out there, you've made yourself vulnerable, and there's a thrill to it where you're taking that risk and kind of trying to bluff your opponent. And if they make the right move, they got you. But you're kind of trying to bluff them, which is a lot of fun. And then in Eidolon has that, but it also has a different kind of thrill where you can take your agent, which is like an agenda, and you can flip it face up, and that gives you a whole different kind of thrill because when your agent's face up, you've showed it to your opponent, and it's right here. You can come and try to take it. And when your agent's face up, it's the interesting thing is you're really powerful because the agent has really strong abilities. But at the same time, you're very vulnerable because you've exposed it to your opponent, and so it has some of the similar bluffing thrills to Netrunner, but it also has this other one that's kind of different where you just put it right out there and you lay it all on the table, so to speak, and it's exciting because you're at your most vulnerable and you're most powerful when you flip that agent over and kind of dare your opponent to come take it from you.
Awesome. Hey, sorry to do this, but we have to wrap up in the next 5 minutes. This is going longer than I thought it would. But
I know we said we'd go short, and again we're at gonna hit 140 again.
Yeah. But that sounds awesome. Sounds awesome, Sean.
All right, I was gonna go into more games, but if we only have 5 minutes,
you want to list them?
Give Fisher a turn.
You just want to give a list? Save it for next.
I'll say I recently played through the game 9 Sols.
Which I tried that.
You tried it?
You recommend?
It's a ChubFrog recommendation.
Nice. Okay, I've been thinking about getting that one. I just tried like a demo or something. Sweet.
Soul like
SOL.
Like the sun.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that.
Oh, it looks pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of got a Hollow Knight aesthetic, but it kind of borrows gameplay elements from Sekiro, where you're kind of trying to time your deflects and learn the rhythm of the enemy attacks, and press the block button in time with the way they attack to try to deflect them exactly. Which I had a lot of fun with it.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna try that one. All right, Fisher. Feel bad rushing.
Well, right before we wrap up here to get you to your appointment, I was just going to issue. I've been considering this relates to UFO 50, which is I was considering actually getting or not an old, but one of those new kind of retro handhelds that play that slightly illegally play old retro emulators. I've been really thinking about it. I don't have that much time to play games, but for some reason I just want one of these things. Yeah.
Ooh, you got 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Ambernix, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I'd be curious if anybody out there owns a Retroid Pocket or an Odin 2 Mini or something. I've been considering some of these different models. So if you own one that you love and really recommend, let me know.
I got the Miu Mini Plus.
Oh yeah. That's the little Game Boy Advanced.
Yeah, I like the way it felt.
Right?
I definitely like the way it felt in my hand, and the interface was good. I just found that I never played it, and I just gave it away to somebody. Should have given it to you.
Yeah, should have given it to me. But we're talking about UFO 50, and maybe I could get my retro game fix just playing this. Maybe
someone has figured out how to put that on one of these things, though.
Oh wow, that's
so
cool.
figure out which
that
one.
Would be cool.
I'll let you know what that is, Fisher, if I figure it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up.
I would say.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna. I would recommend Anbernic, but you'd have to ditch the SIM card that they provide just because it's really cheap.
Oh, it's just crappy.
Yeah, and then do some research on the firmware because the stock whatever it comes with isn't super great. It's not pretty looking, I guess. So there's a lot of cool options that people have made. So
maybe I'll pick your brain, but if anybody else out there has recommendations, let me know. That's something that's been on my mind. But I'll wrap it up, Anders, so you're not late.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, ChubFrog Sean. It was great having you.
Happy to.
Yeah, come back again. And thanks, guys. Good episode. And thanks for listening, everybody, or watching. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.